I've not used this before, so I'm just trying it out.
Space Commander.
Space Commander. Full force.
Full force.
Oh, buddy, it's so good to see you. Whenever I have to get up really super early, it's only ever for one reason, and that's to hang out with you and anyone else that's in your time zone. Time zones are weird, but it's well worth it. It's worth it looking like I haven't had any sleep, and to be fair, I probably haven't had a lot. But how are you, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad, man. I'm sorry about the time zones. I wish I could do something about it.
Yeah, I blame you specifically for time zones. Why can't you just beam us up into whatever space station you're in tonight, and then we can just all do it in the one time zone?
It's very hot in the space station tonight. As you know, as viewers of the show may remember, the space station is in geosynchronous orbit above East Anglia in England, where I grew up, and we try to match the conditions on the station to how they are on the ground. Right. And summer has arrived, so they've cranked the heating up. So I don't have the full uniform on tonight. I just have the shirt on and the hat. I don't have the full uniform. Sorry.
You could say it's solar flares. Are they hot? I don't know. I'm not a spacey.
They're very hot.
I'm only a cadet. And you could be mutating into some sort of Fantastic Four powered superhero. Not that you need superpowers. Those mutton chops are power enough. Hey, we've got a special guest again on incoming transmission. How spoiled are we?
We're very spoiled.
Yes, good. I'm glad you answered the question. It was a little open-ended for a second there. All right, shall we bring him on? Introduce our guest for us, will you please, Spacey?
Ladies and gentlemen, from Turtle Toy Books, author and publisher, Mr. Brian Hickey.
Brilliant.
Space Commander. Good to see you guys.
Full force.
Full force.
Blood for the Baron.
Oh, yes.
the Baron, yes. This is, was sent by my good friend Matt Paul from Kraken Creations.
Yes, I see that.
Wonderful big standee of Baron Ironblood. I mean, it's
huge.
I mean, it's supposed to be, what, 5.5 feet tall?
That's a big one.
It's a big. No, it's just this big. Hey!
You got me. Oh, you got me again.
Yeah. Oh, super.
Good stuff. All right, that's it, everybody. That's all we've got. That's all the jokes we have for tonight. We can't afford any more. We blew our budget on the standee. Let's say hi to the chat real quick. Gap After Dark is here. It is. It's before morning for me, so it is still after dark. Howdy, Gap After Dark. Good to see you. And he's saying hi to everybody. Hello all, Joe Fan 84. He's not the 84th Joe Fan, although that would be pretty good numbers when you think about it. He's number one in our hearts. Speaking of number one, rounding that corner in first place, G-Force Racing 20 is here, saying hi to Zazel and Brian. Sorry, Spacey, you get no hi. It's too bad. Rolando is here. How are you, Rolando? Good to see you, buddy. And poor TJC. Oh, we only won and took his time slot. So sorry, bud. But we appreciate you bumping your live stream to another day. So do watch this space, this time zone, not here, but on TJC's channel. But thanks for dropping in, bud. And Blue Harvest Toys is here, saying howdy. Good to see you. We've got everybody from your neck of the woods at this. This is good. Sometimes I don't see many of these fellas popping in. Fandom Power Podcast, gentlemen. How are you, buddy? Oh, here we are. It's never too late to say hi to Space Commander.
There you go.
So last time that we had you on, Brian, you only had a few books. Which was that one, Space Commander? Have you got it on? Have you got props?
Who are you talking to? You know I do.
Ops Commander.
Props Commander, exactly.
I must thank Zazel for arranging an early Christmas present for me. Bless him. From my number one Aussie homeboy. Volume 2.
Oh yeah. But we're talking about a whole new set of books today. Love that book. Well, you're about to love some more. Brian, what have you got? What have you got coming out for pre-order?
We've got a pre-order going right now, and we've been pushing it, really, through kind of our socials and kind of various kind of podcasts and live streams, and it is the volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the Battle Action Force Treasury editions. So effectively, what that is the Action Force comic strips that were in battle have been collected together. This is the stories specifically from 1983 and 84, and they've been collected together in 3 volumes. There they are right there.
Whoops.
They'll be out later this year, so they'll be shipping in December, and we've got a pre-order running right now. And actually, I love this you have up here, Zazel. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Because it shows you some of the stories that are included in this volume. So we have the very first Action Force story that was serialized in 4 parts in June of 1983. That was followed up with the mini comics, 5 mini comics, which were free giveaways with Battle, and a couple of other comics as well at the time. And then we dive into the annual. We've got Ambush and Crossfire there from the 1985 annual, which was released in 1983, and then we have the epic Operation Bloodhound, Attack Sea Fury, and Red Jackal. So it's a very Red Shadows kind of centric collection of stories, and it pulls together that kind of origins of Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dives into the foil card on the Baron, character data files, and all of the kind of the main bad guys, the Red Shadow Army. And it includes a brand new introduction written by Gerry Finley-Day earlier this year. So, and Gerry, he is the godfather of Action Force comics. He's the Larry Hama of Action Force. And
everyone knows that. I knew that.
So we love Gerry. I can't say about him.
We also, there was another picture for pre-order bundle, book 2.
Yes. So volume 2. Again, these can all be pre-ordered right now at TotalToyBooks.com. And there is an early bird bundle deal where you get all 3 books for the price of 2. And that deal is going to end on the 17th of August. So now is a really good time to get in there and order those 3 books. But if we break down book 2, that's kind of picks up where book 1 leaves off in terms of the Action Force continuity, and it dives into the story Operation Spearhead, which happens after the events that take place in South America. You get Codename Tracker, Operation Sea Lion, the James Tomlinson classic story, Death Castle, and Tank Hunt, and Codename Kraken. That's a kind of a James Tomlinson trilogy right there. Superb stories. Yay, look at that. I love that. Props Commander.
That looks familiar.
And then it wraps up with the epic Operation Claymore by Gerry Finley-Day, which is a kind of a masterpiece story set in the Highlands in Scotland. And
That's cool.
Oh yeah, it's Operation Claymore is a masterpiece. Here we go. Yeah, more beautiful
Prop Commander. I got to say, as an Australian, I want you all to know that I have held back with great restraint, making any jokes about Codename Beaver and also Tank Hunt. All right, I've said nothing, and I want you guys to appreciate that because it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Your restraint is appreciated.
Thank you.
We've already told all those jokes in the full force. Anyway, me and Chris. So
I'm always too late to the game. And then last but not least for the pre-order bundle, book 3.
Oh yeah, book 3. So this is the Z-Force trilogy. And while there's only 3 stories in this particular volume, they're 3 big, long stories. So it's all written by Gerry Finley-Day, all illustrated by the Vanyo brothers. It's a classic, collection of stories. It'd be one of my favorites of the 3 volumes. This would probably be my favorite of the 3, but obviously they're all fantastic volumes.
So these guys look familiar to me, but as G.I. Joe characters, and it's always interesting to see them in a completely different context, under completely different circumstances, under completely different names. But I think that is spectacular art on the cover there.
Oh, that art piece of artwork is taken from a previous front cover that was released in 1984, and it features, we've got we go left to right. We've got Scout, is a Z-Force kind of minesweeper, Gaucho, who's the Z-Force mechanic. Then we have Skip, who's the Z-Force captain, and Jammer, who's a Z-Force communication specialist. Jammer and Gaucho came as figures with the Z-Force HQ. That's your G.I. Joe headquarters.
Oh, yes. Gaz is here. How are you, Gaz?
So those 2 particular figures are actually quite rare to get if you're collecting the toys, Gaucho and Jammer. But in the comics universe, they crop up in that Z-Force trilogy, and Jammer is would be sort of a key character. He's like Skip's kind of right hand man. On various missions.
We'll get another look at some of these comparison shots. I love the figures that you've used to compare the size of the book. That's a big book.
They're big books. They're pretty big. I mean, this particular volume is like 2.25 kilos. I mean, it's 304 pages. It's about 270 by 320 millimeters. Volumes 1 and 3 are 272 pages, so they're slightly smaller on the page count, but the physical size is the same. And the weight of these, for shipping costs to say Australia, it would be very expensive to ship down to Australia because of the sheer weight. And I actually am trying to find a shipping partner that will give me a better deal for shipping to Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, and those kind of far away places.
Right.
We have a shipping partner for the United States, so Skeletron would be one of. So they're the guys who are bringing us the Roboskull Mark II.
Oh, of course, yes.
They're going to handle all the North American fulfillment, so we can do the North American shipping at a really kind of low rate because it'll ship from a fulfillment center in North America, and then Britain, Ireland, and Europe. That'll all be shipped from Ireland. So again, reasonable kind of shipping rates for that part of the world. But once we kind of get out of North America and Europe, the shipping rates, they're a bit pricey. So that's something we're still trying to work out, to find a good partner for that. And if we can get those shipping costs down a bit. But at the moment, that's the real focus is just finishing the comic retouching. So we're nearly at the end of that, and then the books are going to go to print in September.
Oh yeah.
And then we're expecting to have the books in hand by December and ready to ship out to people at that stage.
What a great Christmas present that will be. Quick hello to fellow Disney Robin Hood fan, Vader's Girl 28, showing up saying, hey guys, hello to you, Uda Laddie. Speaking of some comic book pages, Space Commander, you showed up a pretty epic image of the Kraken.
Yeah.
And have I got a comparison for you that I think you are personally going to like? If I'm taking these images out of order, it's only because they've struck me as a. There we are. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
That's the beauty.
Ooh wee.
So I actually think this is the inside spread for the cover that Spacey held up earlier.
I think you're right.
This is illustrated by the superbly talented Jim Watson. Jim's no longer with us, but had he been, if he was still around, it would have been his birthday last week. He's one of there's a lot of different artists worked on the Action Force strips, but more than 90% of the artwork, Jim Watson, Banyo, John Cooper.
My dog's excited for it too.
Oh yeah.
Oi, cut it out.
This is a superb example of Jim's work here from the classic story Codename Kraken, and you can see that the Kraken is discovered in the ice up in the Arctic, and he would spoiler alert, they bring this kind of specimen back to the Baron Ironblood's lab and clone him to make an army of Kraken. What's the
clone him and clothe him?
Clothe him and clone him, yes.
Sorry, you go ahead, mate.
No, I talk too much. You go.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, I think that when Bob Breakin and his team were kind of cooking up ideas for Baron Ironblood, they took inspiration from Ned Kelly, of course, who you'll be familiar with.
Who?
Ned Kelly.
No. Oh, that guy. Yeah, we know him.
And Dr. No from the original James Bond film. So if you notice the kind of mad scientists who complete with a sort of a transparent helmet that Dr. No wears at the end of the film, it's a similar kind of silhouette to the Baron. And of course, Dr. No was a mad scientist, and so is the Baron. So finding a frozen monster basically, and finding ways to clone him and use him as an army, that's pretty standard fare for Baron Ironblood.
I did not know that Dr. No was inspiration for Baron Ironblood. That is cool to learn that. And of course, we see the Baron, in various stories. We see him kind of operating out of a lab. Red Jackal is one of his kind of lab creations, as is Mouton. So he's, that's so cool.
Oh, this is a good segue. We'll come back. We'll come back to some of this epic stuff. However, GeForce Racing has just said, so cool getting to meet Bob and Brian at Joe Fest. Lovely lads.
Oh wow, excellent.
So tell us a little bit about your Joe Fest experience this year.
Well, Joe Fest was amazing. Like, it's been the last time I was at a convention in America was 2017. That was Joe Con in Orlando, which was a super show. I mean, absolutely loved it. It was a great time. But Joe Fest was a completely different experience. Going out this year, it was very different kind of atmosphere. It was way more relaxed. And I think a big difference is that I was there as a vendor. I got a table with various kind of books for sale. Whereas when I went to Joe Con in 2017, I was just there as a guest or just as a visitor, on a holiday. So it's a different vibe when you're on the other side of it, where you're there to work effectively. But it didn't feel like work because I was just getting to chat to so many people, which I loved, and I love talking about Action Force. If you don't know that already,
we figured that out.
4 days is talking about Action Force to anybody that would stop and talk to me. And I had a great time. And I can't even remember all the names of all the people that I met. There was so many. And Bob traveled over with us, but he was based at the Skeletron stand.
Of course, right. Yeah.
He was just as busy as I was in terms of meeting and greeting and chatting to people. He had some prints there for sale. He had some copies of my Palitoy story there for sale. He was kind of signing autographs, and he had brought all of his, not all of his, but a selection of his prototype Action Force prototypes to display. So the metal resin samples, and they looked amazing. But it's really hard to kind of even just sum up Joe Fest in just a few seconds. It was an incredible experience, and I can't wait to get out again next year.
I went last year and had an absolute blast. Got to meet my childhood hero, Sergeant Slaughter. My dog's so excited hearing about it, he's throwing his toys around. So if you hear some background noise, it's definitely him being a cheeky bugger. He's not normally this loud. He's excited because we're up early. But I have a question about Baron Ironblood that I know you guys can answer for me. Now, his helmet famously is a wraparound one in the action figure form. It wraps around, clips in the back, or however it works. Hollow in the top, open-ended. Is that the same in the comic book, or has it got a... Oh, there it goes. Has it got... Or has it got a lid to it?
I think it has a lid. I'm going to go and say I think it has a lid.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that Matt Paul, Kraken Creations, has 3D printed some really, really cool ones with the top filled in. But when they were manufacturing them and putting them on cards back in the 80s, it was packed flat, so they couldn't.
Right, of course.
Do the top at the time. But as kids, it didn't bother us. Your imagination kind of fills in the gaps. It's like it was never a concern for us that that you could have one of the figures and like perhaps he was holding a weapon, pointing it this way, and to us it was no concern that the arm wasn't bent. In your imagination, he was holding it, with bent arms. And so I think the same thing applied to Baron Ironblood's helmet. We knew that was meant to be filled in. By coincidence, I was going through a few bits today, and I found this.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
But inside it was this.
No way! Look at that! Oh wow!
Let me solo you for a sec so we get a good look at that. Whoop!
That is amazing. Oh,
that is cool. It's Baron Iron Commander.
Yeah,
that's a piece of history right there.
So naturally, you would see through the eye slot, but of course, I don't have eyes. So
right, exactly.
Turn around the back because there's nice graphics on the flaps.
Again,
the back is all coloured in.
Oh, look at
There's
that!
A little bit of string on here, which I don't think will fit anymore.
Oh, okay. So that's there's some, because I know that the uncut out piece has a few extra kind of graphics on it, but that is that's still pretty cool.
That is cool. Oh. Can I have it?
I've already said cool stuff.
Fair enough. No, that is very cool.
We'll have to do a show where Spacey just wears that for the whole the whole conversation.
when it's a bit more cooler, maybe, where he doesn't sweat through the cardboard. Not to say that you need a mask, Space Commander.
No, I think I do. But yeah, if it was all hot and sweaty like today, it would be like paper mache stuck to my face.
If I grow my beard long enough, maybe I can just brush it up and over. So this was the gentleman you were talking about, who, in full disclosure, I didn't know who that was until before the show.
That is Gerry Finley-Day, and Gerry is anyone who's grown up with British comics will have heard the name Gerry Finley-Day. He's kind of a legend in the British comic scene. He's probably most famous for his creation of Rogue Trooper the kind of a future war sci-fi story for 2000 AD. But he also created a lot of the major kind of characters and storylines that featured in the comic Battle, which Action Force became a part of in 1983. So he created characters like Hellman of Hammer Force, the Sarge, Glory Rider, and loads more. So when they came up with the idea to do when IPC magazine said we're going to do a war comic that's going to rival like Victor and Warlord, what kind of a team are we going to put together? They immediately thought of Gerry Finley-Day because he had a reputation for being an ideas guy. He could churn out, great storylines, great characters, really, really fast. So the bulk of some of those early war stories in Battle were Gerry's creations. And when we fast forward then to 1983, when Action Force is going to become part of Battle, IPC need a heavyweight who's going to bring the Action Force comic worlds to life, because it was always intended that this was going to be a huge part of the comic. It was never going to be just a one-off story and a couple of mini comics. That was just to kind of get things rolling. So Gerry comes on board and he's writing all the Action Force stories at the very beginning, and he's using pen names. So I can't remember all of his various pen names now, but Gerry Day, Gerry Finley-Day, Ken Owen, and there's a couple more there, because they didn't want it to make it look like the same person was writing everything. So,
I wonder why.
But that's how prolific he was as a writer. So he was bringing all the individual characters to life. Say the SAS squad leader and his sidekick Stakeout and Quickfire, like that whole SAS squad. He kind of breathed personalities into the figures. On the Red Shadow side, Gerry came up with the phrase "blood for the Baron." That is Gerry Finley-Day creation. Compared to G.I. Joe. In G.I. Joe, the good guys had the call sign or the catchphrase, Yo Joe. When G.I. Joe came to Europe as Action Force, they had the call sign, Full Force. But prior to that, when it was Palitoy's Action Force didn't have a call sign or a catchphrase. But the bad guys had blood for the Baron. So that's why I said blood for the Baron at the start of the show.
Well, that's fair.
Keep it in the Palitoy universe.
Fair enough.
So
don't say it again, Space Commander. Keep that. Gaz is pushing buttons.
Gerry is a big. I love talking about Gerry. I don't think he gets enough recognition in the fan community. Larry is so well renowned in the G.I. Joe community. I'd love to see Gerry getting the same kind of recognition with Action Force fans, and we're so lucky because he's still around, he's still with us, he's still working, which is we're able to benefit from his amazing kind of output still to this day. So big shout out for Gerry Finley-Day, and if you ever get a chance to meet him at a comic signing or anything like that, go for it. He's a super, super nice guy. And it was wonderful for me to get to talk to him about his time on Action Force. Because I got the chance to interview him for this book, and he's a real gentleman.
Yeah, whenever anyone talks about the G.I. Joe comic, it's pretty much impossible to talk about it without mentioning Larry Hama. So it would be nice for Gerry to get the same kind of recognition over here.
Yeah, he was celebrated. Larry Hama was celebrated for his long run on G.I. Joe. So it's interesting that they had to come up with different pen names to break up the writing name.
Well, the thing as well is that they were reprinting some of Gerry's other stories that he had written and published in Battle in the 70s. They were reprinting them in the 80s. So his name would have been on those as well. So there's probably a point where Gerry was doing the entire comic, bar Charlie's War and Johnny Red, which was Tom Tully and Pat Mills were kind of writing those, and then everything else was Gerry Finley-Day. So that's easily 3/4 of the comic would have been Gerry. So
quick hello to Jimbo. How are you, buddy? Thanks for dropping in. Greetings. And just a reminder, the early bird bundle deal ends August 17th. What a great price.
That is it's the price in that there. So that's about less than €50 per book for all 3 volumes with that deal. In
Bargain.
dollars, that's about it's about dollars. It's maybe less than $60 per book. And in British pounds, it's just over £40 per book. I don't know what is in Australian dollars though.
In dollary dues, it's probably very expensive. Our Aussie dollar is not very strong. we need to do better. But hopefully, maybe Space Commander, I can order a set, send them to you, and then you can send them down 1 page at a time to save on post.
My plan was to lash all 3 volumes together into a sort of raft and just paddle my way down.
Oh man! So let's have another look at some of this great art, because I got another colored panel, and then we've got some great black and white panels too, which I think is still as impactful as the colored stuff. Now let's look at that.
More Jim Watson artwork there. That is the very first spread. That's that Action Force, when Action Force appeared in battle. So maybe for people who aren't familiar with the British comics, they were mostly in black and white. But the front and back covers would have been full color, and the center spreads would have been full color, and that continued right up to in the late '80s, when IPC kind of started to modernize the look of their comics, because they needed to compete with what Marvel UK were doing. Right. They eventually went full color throughout and upgraded the paper. But back in 1983, they were still printing on newsprint. So, your typical newspaper quality, and only 4 pages were in color. You might get a color advert in there somewhere as well. And then the rest of the stories were black and white. But I do love this spread here. This is the very beginning of the Action Force universe. And it's a story where Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows capture an island called Ascendancy Island off the coast of South America. And it mirrors the Falklands War, to a large degree, which at that time would have still been really, really topical. Oh, there's the Aussie price there.
Boo! Boo!
We'll work it out, mate.
The on the periodic table, gold is AU. I got to say, that's a lot. That's a lot of gold. But well worth the price. We can't blame you for conversion. But how great is this art? It's gritty, it's detailed, and you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of that anywhere.
That one panel there, just at the bottom right of the logo, with the shadow track blasting through the enemy's defenses, or the Islanders' defenses, and just kind of shooting all in sight. It's that one panel. It's a great example of how gritty Jim Watson's artwork is. It really suits that kind of visceral style of the storytelling in battle. And the reputation that battle had at that time was for hard-hitting stories that they were not going to pull their punches when they came to the gory details of war. And I think actually someone posted up a comment there that Charlie's War was brutal, and Charlie's War is a story for us now as grown-ups. We can read that and appreciate that. But when I was 11, reading that in the comic, I couldn't read Charlie's War. I would skip it because it was just too grim for me.
Right.
But now I'd say it's a masterpiece of kind of comic storytelling.
Well, speaking of master storytelling, the use of panels here is superb. You're getting a lot happening here, but it's not jarring. And Baron Ironblood stepping outside of the panel in some cases here really highlights his level of importance. And that profile is striking. and I would say arguably more of a villainous, evil, scary character than Cobra Commander ever was.
Actually, I love how you've just kind of so succinctly broken down that whole spread there. I couldn't say it more eloquently myself, but it's a classic, typical of British comics is that a lot happens in a, on a given page. They tend to be very panel heavy. So it is a real art from both the writer and the artist to be able to tell a lot of information without it being overly crowded, and to have a lot of kind of really good visual dynamics on the spread to bring you through it. And it's things like Baron Ironblood breaking out of the frame. Really, it sets him up as kind of the main bad guy, and it just draws your eye through the spread as well. The way they've broken it up, so it's. That's one of the things I love about the visual approach with the British comics.
Yeah, that is absolutely superb. And if you'll indulge me, we'll go through some of the black and white stuff too, because I think it actually adds to the grittiness of the storytelling. The thing. All right, there we are. All right. So we're looking at Frozen. I froze.
No,
am I back?
You're there. You're there.
I think the dog ate your dongle.
Say no more.
This is a great page here, and it's a pity we can't zoom in on the individual panels. This is the work of Ron Turner, who's
Death Castle.
Death Castle, yes, that's it. And Ron would have been, again, he would have been one of the kind of veteran artists who kind of worked on Action Force. Oh yeah, I love that comment.
I'll read it out. Sorry, dude, I will read it out because it is a great comment. What a fantastic world-building experience it would have been if Palitoy Action Force would have been allowed to continue without the Hasbro influence. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, there's another book out for pre-order on the Total Toy Books website called More News As It's Made, which gives an insight into what Palitoy could have done had they kept going with the line. So that's the Action Force photography of David Gillis, and it includes all of his Palitoy-inspired custom designs for various figures.
Oh, yes. I think Space Commander showed me some of that stuff.
Yeah, they had some of it at the 40th anniversary exhibition, and Mrs. Space Commander brought her space camera with her and took a bunch of photographs, and we did a show about it. It was great fun. I got to meet Dave, and Matt Paul was there, and Bob Breakin, of course. And of course the Black Major was also there.
Yes,
that guy is tall. But if I live in a low gravity environment, when I visit Earth, I get kind of compacted by the gravity.
That must be my excuse too.
It's just to bring it back to Ron Turner there on the screen. Ron's art style is beautiful. He's got his own kind of styles. It's a bit cleaner than the likes of say John Cooper or Jim Watson, who have a very kind of loose brushwork. Ron's style is much tighter with the cross hatching, and this particular story is written by James Tomlinson, which is good. Death Castle, which is very much in that kind of Hammer House of Horror inspired type of storytelling.
Nice, and some dynamic panels here as well. The explosion in the background. Who's the man in the winged helmet?
That is so in this particular story here, that there's an SAS team on maneuvers, and they come across this kind of ruined castle in the middle of a snowstorm when they're up in I think it's the Alps. I think it's where the Austrian Alps. I think it is. But of course, once they get into the castle, they realize it's inhabited by Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows. So some of the Red Shadows are actually, dressed up in the armor.
That's cool.
there's quite a bit of action with these kind of armored knights in the story.
I noticed the gentleman in the explosion has got a kind of a death cry, which you'll become familiar with. So when Mr. Space Commander and I got together, if we were watching a film together, every time a bad guy got killed, I would go, "Aye!" and Mr. Space Commander was like, "Why are you doing that? Why is it every time a baddie gets killed?" Well, I had to explain that as a kid growing up in the late 70s, early 80s in the UK, if you read a proper British comic, every time if a hearty, red-blooded, stout-chested Englishman or a British soldier was called upon to lay down his life, he would meet it with a full-throated roar, like a lion.
Right.
When a bad guy gets killed, it's always aye.
That's an almost perfect Wilhelm scream right there. That's
Yeah, that's going to become a clip. Toy kind of mood is here saying, "What's up, guys? Brian is a super dude. I say he's a super cool dude. Can't wait for these books. 2024 is the year of the Red Shadows." Brian, I guess you agree.
Yes, blood for the Baron. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I mean, that must happen in every issue. Every single issue, and probably in every story of every issue, there's at least one. Aye! That's good as Spacey, though. He's way better than me.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be on the front cover, even more exciting.
Well, it's nice to know that they differentiate the heroism of the Action Force and the cowardice of Baron Ironblood's troop of cowards. Although, I mean, to walk around in that suit of armor, that's pretty heroic. If only he could turn to a life of heroism. But anyway, moving on. Now, I almost got confused that this might have been Cobra for a moment, but no, it's just big snakes.
Well, this is a page from the story Jungle Terror, and this is illustrated by Vanyo. This is out of volume 3.
Clip it.
Vanyo's artwork style. If we imagined if Jim Watson is the most visceral in terms of his kind of brushwork, and then it gets a little bit more cleaner with Ron Turner. By the time we get to Vanyo, it's like really clean artwork. It's Vanyo again. I mean, I've said this loads of times on various shows. The Vanyo brothers are my favorite artists from this period. Their lovely clean line work is just really appealed to me. Their depictions of the characters was a big favorite of mine as a kid growing up. But again, you can see with the panels, it's not rigidly gridded. They break the panels up, like the other artists. And in this particular story here, kind of written by Gerry Finley-Day, that there's a huge kind of I don't want to say a Cobra influence necessarily, because obviously in the Action Force timeline, it's still we're still a long way from kind of Cobra Commander coming on the scene, but to get a sense that there's something kind of reptilian coming down the line, maybe this is a bit of a teaser for something for changes that will go.
True. At that bottom panel that's off center, that also helps to show off the action that's happening there, and a very creative use, as you said, of these panels. That one particularly, I do enjoy. Snakes coming out and then knocking the panel off center, almost like we're there. We've got a question for you, Brian.
Oh yeah.
Were there any characters that stood out to you as favorites while researching Battle Action Force?
Oh, well, that's okay. I love that question. So obviously these are comics that I grew up with. So as a kid, in this particular era, I would have been a big fan of the Z-Force captains. That's Skip. So as an 11, 12, 13-year-old, he was my favorite. But coming back to the comics, say over the last 6-7 months while I've been working on this project, and getting to really like look at the stories again, maybe with a more analytical kind of head on me than I've ever looked at them before. I absolutely love the banter between SAS Boat Patrol Stakeout. So he's a kind of a Scouser from Liverpool, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he tends to always kind of rub everybody else up the wrong way. So one of his kind of squad buddies is Quickfire, and so Quickfire's from Germany. He's a German commando, or the German kind of special forces, and he has no sense of humor. He's just black and white, dead straight, no joking, no kind of messing around. And what you find what Gerry Finley-Day does is he takes these two characters, puts them together, and they just grate off each other, and they put a great dynamic and great humor in the stories. So I'd say Stakeout is definitely a favorite character of mine now, kind of rereading these comics and really appreciating what Gerry kind of did with the characters. And then if we flip it to the Red Shadow side, there's a couple of standout characters there. The Black Major is, and I'm thinking specifically of Gerry Finley-Day's depiction of Black Major. He was never, ever a good guy, ever. Even though he was a former member of Action Force who became a Red Shadow, he was always evil. He was a criminal kind of mastermind of the underworld as a kind of a sideline to when he was in the British Army. And it's Gerry's story of the Black Major is a story of a bad guy who just gets badder and badder and badder and badder as his career goes on.
Right.
And it's a masterpiece, from Gerry, and that. So that's another great character that I love. And in fact, Gerry in his introduction likens him to Oliver Reed, an Oliver Reed bad guy.
Right.
Which is a great analogy. And then kind of a last one then, Red Jackal is basically the Terminator. And
right.
You gotta just love that,
So Space Commander, same question to you. Do you reckon there's any favorite characters that stand out for you, or?
Nah, I can't think of
any. Can't think of any. Well, Gaz has called you out, Brian, saying that any answer other than Space Commander is unacceptable.
He's right to pull me up on that. Absolutely.
Gaz is a good bloke. He's just having a laugh. Pains is here. How are you, Pains? Good to see you. And Crash, he's saying, I met him at Joke Fest. That's nice.
Hey, Crash.
Yeah, we love Crash around these parts too. Crash is a good fella. So we'll move on again to another, because I've got two more of the black and white panels I want to show. They're just so good. And then we can talk more about the pre-order for the book. Now I looked at this one. This was the first one that I saw. I'm not very technologically savvy, and so as I was trying to download these, Brian, and I appreciate you emailing them to me, this was the first one that popped up, and I was like, holy moly, what's happening here?
Yeah, this is these pages, I just pull these at random from my various folders. Just, I suppose we only did the prep for the call kind of earlier today. Whereas normally I try and give myself a bit more time to prep. So I'm only realizing that I pulled this. This is pulled out of the Codename Beaver story, which is about the SAS trooper whose code name is Beaver, and he was the figure that came with the Silent Attack kayak toy that came out at the time. So this is his debut. This story is his debut in battle. And what we have here in this particular panel, he's obviously trying to get some information about a Red Shadow base that he's trying to infiltrate, and he's taken out one of the, I suppose, one of the guards kind of on the perimeter. And of course, what we see, typically all the Red Shadows have a kind of suicide pill or a cyanide pill that they bite down from when they've been captured. And of course, their last words are "blood for the Baron," followed by "Aye."
Oh man, Space Commander, we need to read these stories and have a shot every time someone cries out with that dreaded AE. But this
wouldn't get past the first issue.
No. I love how because these helmeted fellows, I like how they, and without anything to do with Hasbro, sort of have a very Cobra Commander-ish look to them, so that when they did bring over Cobra Commander, and who did they make him again? Jackal, maybe? Was it Red Jackal?
Close.
Red, right, don't tell me. It's Vulture, the Vulture guy.
Close.
Oh, gosh.
A very big high-tech weapon.
Is it Red someone at least?
Yes.
So it's not Red Jackal, it's not Red Vulture. It's Red Cobra Commander. Nailed it.
Perfect. Exactly right.
I knew it. Wait, which one is it? Sorry, guys.
Red laser.
Red laser. I was thinking animals. Yeah, red laser. Well, that makes sense because it comes with the big thing. But they do have that look about them where they could transition over characters like Cobra Commander and I guess Destro to a lesser extent. He does blend over. That look of him comes over because they've already established these sort of interesting looks about them, and I wonder why they didn't try and transition some of this cool design the other way as well.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think a lot of it though you kind of have to look at the history of Palitoy itself to see to maybe answer that question. So Palitoy, when they produced their Action Force line, I mean it was all original. Like to go back to Action Force Series 1, right? So kind of before the Red Shadows, before the different teams, it was just based off Action Man. It was all original kind of Palitoy creations and designs, both on the vehicles and on the figures. Everything was unique to Palitoy. And then when G.I. Joe was revealed in 1982, there's Series 1, mounted an Arctic patrol there. When G.I. Joe was revealed in 82, Hasbro already had a really lucrative deal with Palitoy with the license for 12-inch G.I. Joe. So they immediately got in touch and said, look, do you guys want to take any of our 3 3/4-inch line? License that out as well. So Palitoy said, okay, we'll take some of the vehicles to flesh out our Action Force line, and they revamped the lineup a bit to create the various teams and the various factions. So the bad guys and the 4 good guy teams. But they needed to also take some of the articulated figures from Hasbro so that they could fit into the Hasbro vehicles.
Right.
So bring them over as vehicle drivers. And that sort of set a precedent that when we go into late 84, the Palitoy was a kind of a change in the business where they stopped doing any new design work and they want to focus more on distribution and marketing. So they let go of their design team, and with no design team, that meant no new Action Force designs were going to happen.
That's a pity.
Absolutely. So in order to lead to kind of have new Action Force product going into 1985, they leaned into that license deal with Hasbro and then just started to bring G.I. Joe product over wholesale essentially into the Action Force line. So that's why the design is only ever kind of going one direction after 1984, because it's just more and more Hasbro material coming into the toy line. And for us as kids back in 1985 and 86, that was still amazing because we loved those toys.
Of course.
But looking back on it today, I mean, had it gone the other way and Palitoy were kind of feeding stuff over to Hasbro, then the G.I. Joe universe would be very different to how we remember it now.
Absolutely true. I like this panel. It's only 6 panels on this page, but it's telling quite a lot. And it gets to the point. It's got some gritty realism to it. I think nowadays there probably would have been a blurb at the bottom where it's like he's gone into a coma, as opposed to actual grittiness of what is essentially suicide here. But yeah, that's that is great. And we'll move on to the final black and white panel that we have, which now that is some in-depth line work going on there.
Well, this is a great panel to bring up because this is actually a story that's set in Australia. This is Hawk's Challenge. And in Hawk's Challenge, what we have here. This is a red shadow base, and you can see they've got a lot of kind of slave workers who are being tortured. They're being kind of whipped there. 40 lashes because they didn't meet their quota. But they've also desecrated the interior of Ayers Rock. So, multiple crimes against humanity going down this particular story here. It's they're and again, spoiler alert, they're basically carving out the interior of Ayers Rock to turn it into a munitions store for what's going to become a major military offensive in Australia.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's a lot of real estate, I guess. From that point of view, I can see why they'd want to, but that's desecrating a traditional landowner's landmark there. Wouldn't fly. And I can see on the bottom there is another one of those. How do you say it again, Space Commander? He must have been a real bad guy.
Oh yeah. So it's again, just looking at the Jim Watson. This is another Jim Watson page here. So we've got a lot of Jim Watson featured on the show tonight. But again, it looks like the illusion of there being loads of detail is really just more down to his very abstract kind of brushwork. So the artists would have penciled and inked all of their own pages themselves. And Jim's particular style, like it's really vivid, very very loose, very kind of almost untamed brushwork on this. Whereas if we look at when we think back to the Vanyo page earlier, everything's very precise. And this is a John Cooper page here, and again, John's got a lovely style. I mean, I love this bottom left panel here, the way he's done the kind of the highlights and the shadows and the dark background. That's a beautiful piece of just that one panel is a great piece of art.
That's the
absolutely.
That's a Judge Dredd chin right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it.
I think John Cooper actually did work on Judge Dredd. He might have done some work on Judge Dredd. So he was a very versatile artist. He worked across loads of different titles, and as did all these particular artists in fairness. And they were all seasoned veterans in the British comic scene.
Well, if that hasn't given people inspiration to go and check it out and pre-order, the link is in the description. Early bird bundle deal, all three. Oops, I can do it again. I need to look at this guy because he's such a legend. I keep clicking over to him. But yeah, there we are. Battle Action Force.
Well, there's another thing about August 17th is an important date for another reason. If you go back to Gerry Finley-Day there just for a second.
I knew I did that for a reason.
So I think I'm going from memory here, but I'm pretty sure I saw something on Rebellion's social. So Rebellion is the publisher that owns the Action Force artwork. And Total Toy Books has a license with Rebellion to produce these volumes. But I'm pretty sure I saw on Rebellion socials that Gerry is doing a signing in Forbidden Planet in London on August 17th. So if you're in the London area on August 17th, head down to Forbidden Planet, and Gerry will be there signing books with Dave Gibbons, his co-creator on the Rogue Trooper series. So that's not related to these particular volumes. I'm just giving a shout out to Gerry and Dave, two legends in the comic scene, and I nearly wish I could get to London myself that day just to go and see the guys and get some stuff signed.
So the legendary Gaz has thrown in the Instagram link. If they want to check out you, Brian, on Instagram, they can do that right here. And the link is also in the description for
That's not how you spell it, Brian.
The amount of times I get emails where I refer to as brain, I just kind of go with it now.
I think what he's saying here is follow your brain and get on over to Instagram to follow Brian. And while you're using that brain, pre-order these books as well. Rogue Trooper was another great story. There we are. Okay, cool. Good stuff. I'll have to check them all out. I'm not familiar with Rogue Trooper.
Material has been reprinted and reprinted and reprinted. It's really easy to get your hands on Rogue Trooper material. So jump onto Amazon, look up Gerry Finley-Day, Rogue Trooper. You'll find tons of stuff there. It's a great story, well worth checking out. And in fact, any of Gerry's material that you can get your hands on it's super, super enjoyable stuff.
And like I said, the link is in the description. I've got a clip.
Check it out one time, won't you?
Love that.
One time, won't you? Do pre-order. So that's an early bird bundle deal. After that, the price will be $221.97. Very specific in the cents. They're not really cents, though, are they? What are they?
It's cent, yeah. In euro, it's euro and cent, yeah.
Oh, I know.
But people can still pre-order after August 17th, but that 3-for-2 deal won't be available after that date, and it'll go till Pacific time, USA Pacific time, August 17th. So that means our North American, anyone from North America watching the show here, you'll have plenty of time on that August 17th to get in there and at the last minute if you need to. And
he's also throwing that link in there too. Good on you, Gaz. He's only gone and fixed it and put Brian there now.
Sorry, Gaz.
What a legend. Have you got anything else you're working on, Brian, that we can pick your brain about?
Well, this is the big project for me at the minute. I mean, we were kind of chatting just before we went live, and I was saying to you guys that I've been working on this pretty much full time since last November. There was a bit of a break early in the year where I had a project I needed to work on at the Nuremberg Toy Fair, which was a great experience. And then Joe Fest came up there last month, it was last month. But pretty much, apart from those kind of two little breaks, it's been full on this. So our print deadline is September. It's head down just to get through the last few pages. So nearly there with the cleanup work, and then a little bit of kind of just layout work for the introductions that have to be included with these volumes, and then it's September off to print. So what I'll be doing is, if you're following Total Toy Books or myself on social media, I'll obviously be keeping people fully updated as throughout that whole kind of production process after it goes to print, because there's going to be some rounds of proofing with the printer. We'll even get a sample of the books kind of sent over before they run the full job, and then as the jobs are kind of run, we'll be able to give kind of more accurate kind of timings for the shipping date. It will be December, but I'll be able to tell people more accurately what day in December they're going to be shipping, near that time. And then really after that, it's going to be going into 2025. There are some other kind of projects kind of in the pipeline, but it's too early in the process to really kind of talk about those, those 2025, 2026 projects. But there is some stuff kind of cooking there. And but once I kind of get this off my decks, I can start looking at kind of the next thing after that.
Well, it's good to have focus on one project rather than sort of spread them out and maybe lose some of that focus. But so will you be going around town for conventions and stuff locally, maybe abroad again, so people can get their copies signed that they've ordered and hopefully have by Christmas?
100%. We don't have the dates yet, but if Roll Call, which is a British Action Force convention, if that's going ahead this year, that's definitely something that I'm going to do my best to try and get over to. huge fan of David Tree and what he does at that particular show. If you're ever in the neighborhood, it tends to be on October, November. So follow Rollout Roll Call on Facebook and head to that if you can when that's on. Definitely going to go back to Joe Fest next year. And there'll be, in terms of the Irish conventions, the next one is going to be Enniskillen Comic Con, which won't be till June 2025. And that'll be going for the 50th anniversary, or they'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Battle next year.
Nice.
So that's definitely something that we're going to have to do the convention at home. So we'll need to be at that next year.
Well, I've actually just had a terrific idea. I reckon that I would save money if I ordered them to Space Commander and then just went and visited him and did a tour of the UK, and put that money into good use, and go and pick them up myself, and then charter a plane back again with my slump of heavy books. That might be a plan, Space Commander, and then
I'd have to fly down to the planet and meet you there.
Well, I'll go to the space station first, and we'll drop down together.
Hey, orbital skydiving.
Yeah. Brian can pick us up from the space station.
Hey, count me in. Well,
First round's on me.
If you guys happen to land anywhere near kind of Britain and Ireland, I'm pretty sure I could make it out without too much difficulty to meet up for the Talk Action Force and maybe have a pint.
Oh yeah, let's do it. And if to have a pint and talk toys, those two things, and with friends, it's win-win-win. Win-win-win. We're over the hour mark. Space Commander, have you got any words you want to add? I've pretty much dribbled on it quite a bit tonight. Sorry about that.
That's fine. No, I'm just very grateful to Brian primarily, but for everyone showing up tonight and hanging out with us, talking toys and beer. The amount of pictures that Laser and I have sent to each other of our action figures in the pub, hanging off the side of a pint glass.
Yeah. I've gotten a few weird looks at some Aussie pubs when I have the Sarge leaning up against a pint of beer, but after a few pints of beer, nobody cares, and it's good fun. It's a good conversation starter.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So thank you to everyone for showing up. It's been great.
Yes.
Yeah, it has been. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for joining us. It's always fun to hang out and talk Action Force. I know a little bit more than I did before, and as Space Commander says, am I going to play the clip, or are you going to just say it? I'll play the clip.
Because knowing is half the battle.
Space Commander.
It's coming up. On the way.
All right, well, we'll leave it there then. I'm going to go get a couple of hours sleep before I'm going live again with Gaz. But this has been fun. We will definitely have to do it again. We'll check in and see how your pre-orders are going. I have a strong feeling that they're going to go very well. Just a reminder, early bird bundle deal. The link is in the description. Do check it out. Brian's Instagram is also here, and Brains as well, if you're interested in that. They're all here. Thank you, Gaz. Appreciate it. That was fun, fellas. I appreciate it. I guess with that, we'll just say blood for the Baron.
Blood for the Baron. Thanks so much, guys.
Where's my outro? Which one am I going to do today? Let's go classic. I haven't done this one in so long. Let's do it. Space Commander. Space Commander. Space Commander. Space Commander. Space Commander. Space Commander. Space
Commander, Space Commander. Space Commander.